Let's break it down straight from the hill to your hometown. No spin, no hype, just facts we find. AI's on the case, no truth left behind. Laws are written, deals are made. Who's got your back, who's throwing shade? We cut through the noise, decode the text, keeping it real. Congress in context, Congress in context, shining the light, breaking it down so you know what's right. Policies, votes, who's working for you? We bring the facts, the power is you.
Welcome in, everybody. It's time to take another deep dive. This time into a day in a life of Congress.
Right, yeah.
February 18, 2025.
Very cool.
To be exact. And we're going to be exploring the Congressional Record.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like, I don't know, it gives you a backstage pass to see how laws are made and debates unfold and ultimately how our democracy functions.
Well, and it's fascinating to me, at least, how a document like this can be so routine but also so revealing at the same time. On the surface, it's a record of, procedures, appointments, adjournments, but just beneath that surface is this window into the priorities and the tensions and even the personalities that are shaping our nation's policy.
Oh, absolutely. And today's record is particularly interesting.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to uncover everything from the nomination of a very controversial FBI director to potential cuts to public broadcasting.
Wow.
We'll even touch on the legacy of George Washington himself.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
All right, so let's set the stage here. The day begins with some routine business, and that includes the appointment of representatives to the Joint Economic Committee.
Right. Mr. Arrington, Mr. Estes, Mr. Smucker, Ms. Meliatakis, Mrs. Spartz, Mrs. Moore, Mr. Caston, and Mr. Min.
Okay, now you might be thinking, why should I care about a committee? But the Joint Economic Committee, this is a big deal. They advise Congress on all things economy,
right,
from inflation and jobs to trade and taxes. I mean, these appointments really reflect the current balance of power and priorities within Congress, and that could directly impact your wallet down the line.
That's such a good point because it's really easy to just kind of skim over these appointments, but they really do set the tone for economic policy discussions.
Absolutely.
And after these appointments, the House adjourned until Friday, February 21st.
Well,
but that doesn't mean that things come to a standstill.
No, not at all. The wheels of government keep turning even when Congress isn't formally in session. Committees continue their work. Representatives are busy meeting with their constituents. They're drafting legislation, preparing for upcoming debates.
Right. I was really struck by how the record kind of shifts gears from these procedural matters to highlight these moments of heroism and public service.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's a tribute to the Prince William County Fire Department for their bravery during a plane crash in the Potomac River.
Right, and that recognition, it underscores something really important. The Congressional Record isn't just about laws and policies.
Yeah.
It's also a record of these human stories that are shaping our nation. It reminds us of the sacrifices that are made by everyday heroes who put their lives on the line to protect others.
Yeah, and it also highlights the role of Congress in acknowledging and honoring those who serve their communities.
Absolutely.
Another example is the recognition of Chief Patterson from Raleigh, North Carolina.
Okay.
She's had an incredible career in law enforcement, championing community safety and earning the respect of her peers.
Yeah, Chief Patterson's story is a powerful reminder that, individuals can make a tangible difference through years of dedicated service.
Yeah.
It's a testament to the impact that one person can have on their community and on the lives of others.
Absolutely. And then, of course, we kind of dive into the heart of congressional activity, the introduction of new bills.
All right.
It's like a whirlwind tour of the issues facing the nation.
Yeah.
We see bills aimed at everything from expanding lung cancer screenings under Medicare to authorizing NASA to reimburse a town in Virginia for replacement costs.
Wow. So this flurry of legislative activity, this really reflects the sheer scope and diversity of issues that Congress is grappling with every day.
Yeah.
It also highlights the different priorities and concerns of, individual representatives and the people that they represent.
It's almost overwhelming to see the sheer volume of bills being introduced.
Yeah.
We have H.R. 1405, which seeks to assess barriers to pharmaceutical manufacturing expansion.
Okay.
H.R. 1406, which aims to expand lung cancer screenings under Medicare.
Yeah.
And H.R. 1419, which authorizes NASA to reimburse a town in Virginia for, replacement costs.
Yeah.
To name just a few.
And And it's important to remember these are just a small fraction of the bills being introduced. Each one represents a potential change to existing laws or the creation of new ones.
Right.
And the debates surrounding them, they reveal these competing interests and ideologies that shape our political landscape.
It really makes you realize that every vote, every amendment, every compromise has the potential to impact our lives in really profound ways.
Absolutely. And speaking of history, amidst all of this contemporary action,
Yeah.
the Senate pauses for a tradition that connects us to our nation's founding, the annual reading of George Washington's farewell address.
I was so surprised to learn that this tradition is still upheld.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What do you think is the significance of that in today's political climate?
Well, it's a symbolic act, but a powerful one. It reminds us of Washington's warnings about the dangers of political factions and the importance of national unity.
Yeah.
In an era of such intense partisanship, his words really resonate with a renewed urgency.
You know, his call for unity and avoiding the baneful effects of the spirit of party feels particularly relevant today, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Washington recognized that while political differences are inevitable, they shouldn't lead to division and gridlock.
Right.
His farewell address, it serves as this timeless reminder of the principles that should guide our political discourse.
He also emphasized the importance of religion and morality as essential pillars of a thriving society.
Right.
It makes you wonder how he'd view the current state of our public discourse.
It's certainly a thought-provoking question. His words continue to challenge us to consider the role of ethics and values in shaping our nation's character and destiny.
And now let's shift our focus to a more contemporary issue that's generating quite a buzz. The nomination of Howard Lutnick for Secretary of Commerce.
This nomination is really interesting because it reflects a growing trend of appointing individuals with extensive private sector experience to government positions. Senator Thune, in his remarks supporting Lutnick, he highlighted his successful business background and his potential to promote American innovation.
Senator Thune specifically praised Lutnick's experience as an inventor and his commitment to addressing critical issues like spectrum allocation and broadband expansion.
Right.
Can you explain what spectrum allocation is and why it's so important?
Of course, spectrum allocation refers to how the government divides and assigns the radio frequencies that are used for communication.
Okay.
It's critical because these frequencies are essential for everything from cell phones and Wi-Fi to GPS and radio broadcasts.
Wow.
As technology advances, the demand for spectrum increases, and managing this limited resource effectively is crucial for innovation and economic growth.
So Lutnick's expertise in this area could be a valuable asset in promoting the development of 5G and future technologies.
Right.
But it sounds like Senator Cantwell isn't entirely convinced.
Well, that's right. Senator Cantwell raised some pointed concerns, particularly about Lutnick's stance on tariffs and their potential impact on American consumers. She argues that tariffs could lead to higher prices for goods and services, ultimately hurting the very people they're intended to protect.
She also expressed skepticism regarding Lutnick's commitment to the GTS and Science Act and export controls, which aim to boost domestic semiconductor manufacturing and protect sensitive technologies from falling into the wrong hands.
Senator Cantwell's critique reflects this broader debate about the role of government in regulating trade and protecting American interests in a globalized economy. It also highlights the potential tensions between promoting innovation and safeguarding national security.
You know, this nomination really underscores how even seemingly straightforward appointments can become battlegrounds for competing ideologies and political agendas.
Absolutely.
It also reminds us that every decision made in Washington has the potential to impact our lives, from the prices we pay for goods to the technologies that shape our future.
And speaking of nominations that have stirred up controversy, let's turn our attention to the nomination of Kashyap Patel for the position of FBI Director.
Oh, this one seems particularly contentious, with strong opinions on both sides.
It certainly is. Senator Grassley, in his defense of Patel, emphasized his role in exposing corruption and his vision for a new FBI. He portrayed Patel as a reformer who's willing to challenge the status quo and hold those in power accountable.
But Senator Jogin paints a very different picture. He expressed serious concerns about Patel's judgment temperament and alleged involvement in purging FBI ranks based on political loyalty.
Senator Durbin's opposition centers on this fear that Patel's actions and rhetoric demonstrate a concerning disregard for the FBI's traditional apolitical stance.
Right.
He argues that Patel's plans to purge the FBI based on political loyalty would undermine the agency's integrity and effectiveness.
Durbin even cited some pretty alarming examples from Patel's past, including his plans to turn FBI headquarters into a museum of the deep state and his book that contains an enemies list targeting individuals from both political parties. It sounds like he's suggesting that Patel's vision for the FBI is more about settling scores than upholding justice.
Those are serious allegations, and if true, they raise profound questions about Patel's suitability for such a sensitive position.
Right.
The FBI director must be seen as impartial and committed to upholding the law, regardless of political affiliations.
It's a sobering reminder of the importance of keeping our institutions independent and free from undue political influence.
Absolutely.
A politicized FBI could have far-reaching consequences, eroding public trust and undermining the rule of law.
The potential implications are indeed significant. A politicized FBI could lead to biased investigations, selective prosecutions, and a chilling effect on free speech and dissent. It could undermine the very foundations of our democracy.
This nomination really throws a spotlight on the crucial role of the Senate in vetting nominees and ensuring that those confirmed to positions of power are committed to serving the nation, not a particular political agenda.
It also highlights the importance of civic engagement and holding our elected officials accountable for the decisions they make, particularly when it comes to appointments that have the potential to shape the course of our nation.
And now for a topic that's sure to spark some strong opinions.
Right.
The debate over public broadcasting.
This is a perennial issue
Right.
with passionate arguments on both sides. Senator Kennedy took the stage to argue for defunding the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, the CPB, the organization that funds NPR and PBS.
Right.
He believes that government subsidies are no longer necessary and that the reporting has become biased.
So he presented a historical perspective, arguing that public broadcasting was initially intended to fill a void in rural areas where access to commercial broadcasting was limited. But now, with the proliferation of cable satellite and streaming services, he believes that this rationale no longer holds.
Senator Kennedy also contends that public broadcasting has strayed from its original mission of providing unbiased news
Right.
and has become a platform for promoting a particularly political perspective. He cites specific headlines from NPR and PBS that he considers examples of biased reporting.
He brought receipts, so to speak.
Yeah.
Some of the headlines he cited were quite provocative, covering topics like Michael Avenatti, racism in country music, and Donald Trump's relationship with Vladimir Putin.
By highlighting specific examples, Senator Kennedy attempted to demonstrate a pattern of bias within public broadcasting, suggesting that it no longer serves the public interest in an impartial manner.
But here's the interesting part. Even Kennedy defends the right of these organizations to publish their content. He just doesn't think taxpayers should be footing the bill.
That distinction is crucial.
Right.
Senator Kennedy isn't advocating for censorship or suppression of speech. Rather, he's arguing for a separation between government funding and media outlets, even those with a public service mission.
It's a thorny issue for sure. On the one hand, public broadcasting plays a valuable role in providing educational and cultural programming, especially in rural areas where access to diverse content might be limited. On the other hand, concerns about bias and the use of taxpayer money to support a particular viewpoint are legitimate and deserve careful consideration.
The question then becomes, how do we balance the value of public broadcasting with the need for impartiality and fiscal responsibility?
Right.
And what role should the government play in supporting media organizations in an era of rapidly evolving technology and media consumption habits?
These are questions that have been debated for decades, and they're not going away anytime soon.
Right.
It's a reminder that even in a democracy, there's often no easy answer, and finding a solution that satisfies everyone is the tall order.
It's a testament to the complexities of governance and the need for ongoing dialogue and debate to find solutions that best serve the public good, taking into account competing values, evolving technologies, and the diverse needs of our society.
It's also a reminder that as citizens, we have a responsibility to engage in these debates, to inform ourselves about the issues, and to make our voices heard.
Our democracy thrives on informed and active participation.
Right.
By staying engaged, we contribute to shaping the policies that affect our lives and the future of our nation.
And speaking of shaping the future, we're going to take a quick break.
All right.
But when we come back, we'll delve into more captivating content from the Congressional Record, including a historical commemoration, a deep dive into budget battles, and some inspiring stories of individuals making a difference. Stay with us.
Sounds good.
Okay.
All right. Welcome back to our exploration of the Congressional Record.
I'm really curious to see what else this day in Congress has in store for us.
Well, we've seen the routine, the heroic, the controversial. Now, let's kind of delve into a moment of historical reflection.
Okay, I see that the record commemorates the 80th anniversary of the 10th Mountain Division's activation.
This division, known for its specialized mountain warfare training, played a crucial role in World War II,
Okay.
particularly in the Italian campaign. Their legacy, however, extends far beyond that conflict.
So they're not just a historical footnote.
Not at all. The 10th Mountain Division has been the most deployed unit in the U.S. Army for over 2 decades,
Wow.
serving in conflicts from Afghanistan and Iraq to supporting NATO allies. They're a symbol of the evolving nature of warfare and the need for constant adaptation.
That's incredible. It shows how history isn't just about the past, it's about understanding the present and preparing for the future.
And speaking of the future, let's shift our focus to something that always sparks heated debate: the budget.
Right, the Congressional Record details the Republican budget resolution, and it sounds like Senator Wyden has some strong opinions about it.
Senator Wyden's critique boils down to this. He believes the resolution prioritizes tax cuts for the wealthy at the expense of vital programs that benefit families. He's deeply concerned about potential cuts to social programs, healthcare, education, research funding.
Yeah, it's a classic debate about where we should invest our resources in tax breaks for the few or in programs that support the many.
Wyden doesn't just speak in generalities. He provides specific examples to make his point. He points to a proposed $9 trillion in cuts to programs with $1 trillion potentially on the chopping block in just the next 6 months. He contrasts this with $3.7 trillion in tax giveaways, which he argues would primarily benefit the ultra-wealthy.
Those numbers are staggering. It sounds like he's painting a pretty bleak picture of what this budget resolution could mean for everyday Americans.
He also expresses concern about the concentration of power in the executive branch, particularly with the involvement of Elon Musk in government data systems.
That raises some interesting questions about the balance of power between government and private industry, especially in the age of technology.
It's a debate that's only going to intensify as technology companies play an increasingly influential role in our lives and in the functioning of government.
It seems like we're navigating uncharted territory where the rules haven't been fully written yet.
It's an evolving landscape that requires careful consideration and robust public discourse.
Now let's take a break from these high-stakes debates and turn our attention to some of the more personal stories highlighted in the Congressional Record.
It's always inspiring to see individuals recognized for their contributions to their communities and to the nation.
The record features a heartwarming story about Osler Ardell Moore, a World War II and Korean War veteran who's turning 99. He had an incredible career as a pharmacist and even found love later in life, marrying his college sweetheart after they reconnected as widows and widowers.
It's a beautiful testament to the enduring power of love and the resilience of the human spirit. Mr. Moore's life is a reminder that it's never too late to find happiness and fulfillment.
And speaking of inspiring individuals, the record also recognizes the retirement of Jimmy Johns, who served in the United States Marine Corps and then dedicated over 40 years to Elbit America.
Mr. Johns exemplifies the valuable skills and experience that veterans bring to the civilian workforce. His journey from serving his country to contributing to a leading technology company is truly commendable.
It's a reminder that behind every name of the Congressional Record, there's a unique story, a life filled with experiences and achievements.
These personal stories add a human dimension to the often abstract world of politics and policy. They remind us that the decisions made in Congress ultimately impact real people with real hopes and dreams.
Before we wrap up, I want to circle back to a bill that caught my eye. A bill introduced by Ms. Norton that aims to activate national parks in cities.
This bill challenges the traditional view of national parks as primarily spaces for preservation and passive recreation.
So instead of just being places to visit and admire, these parks would become hubs for active use and community engagement. Imagine playgrounds, bike paths, community events, even concessions.
It's a vision that prioritizes making parks more accessible and relevant to the daily lives of urban residents, fostering community, promoting health and well-being, and even creating economic opportunities.
It's a fresh perspective on how we can reimagine public spaces to enhance the quality of life in our cities. It makes you wonder if there are other innovative ways we can rethink the role of parks and green spaces in urban environments.
It's certainly a conversation worth having. As our cities become increasingly dense and populated, finding ways to connect residents with nature and create vibrant public spaces is essential.
It's about creating cities that are not just functional, but also livable, enjoyable, and enriching.
It's about recognizing that access to nature and green spaces is not a luxury, but a fundamental element of a thriving urban environment.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in our exploration of the Congressional Record for February 18th, 2025.
We've seen routine procedures, heated debates, inspiring stories, and glimpses into the future.
What are your takeaways from this deep dive? What issues resonated with you the most?
Yeah, it's amazing how this single day in Congress reveals so much about the state of our nation.
It really is. It's like this microcosm of American society, reflecting our hopes, our challenges, and our ongoing debates about creating a better future.
What strikes me is the contrast between these, high-stakes political battles and those personal stories of courage and service.
That juxtaposition is powerful.
Yeah.
It reminds us that beyond the partisan clashes and the policy debates, there are individuals who are selflessly dedicating themselves to the betterment of their communities.
Like those firefighters we talked about who risked their lives to save others during that plane crash.
And Chief Patterson, whose dedication to law enforcement has made a real difference in people's lives.
These stories serve as this powerful antidote to cynicism. They remind us that even in the midst of political turmoil, there are people who embody the best of humanity: compassion, courage, and a commitment to the common good.
It's a reminder that ultimately we're all connected, and our individual actions, whether grand or humble, contribute to the fabric of our society.
It also underscores the importance of recognizing and celebrating those who make a positive impact, whether they're on the front lines of a crisis or quietly serving their communities day after day.
I think that's a great takeaway from this deep dive into the Congressional Record. It's not just about dry procedures and political maneuvering. It's about the human stories that shape our nation and the choices we make about the future we want to build.
We've seen how decisions made in Congress, from budget allocations to nominations, have the potential to ripple outwards, impacting the lives of individuals and communities across the country.
We've also seen how historical events, like the legacy of the 10th Mountain Division, continue to inform our present and shape our approach to challenges like national security and global engagement.
Right.
And we've witnessed the ongoing debate about the role of government in areas like media, funding technology regulation, and social safety net programs, highlighting the complex choices we face as a society.
Absolutely.
This exploration has certainly given me a lot to think about. It's clear that staying informed and engaged is crucial, not just during election season, but every day.
The Congressional Record, while sometimes dense and procedural, offers a valuable window into the workings of our democracy. It's a resource available to every citizen, and I encourage you to explore it, to follow the issues that matter to you, and to make your voice heard.
Your voice truly does matter.
It does.
Whether it's through voting, contacting your representatives, or engaging in thoughtful discussions about the issues, every act of participation contributes to shaping the future of our nation.
Remember, democracy is not a spectator sport.
Right.
It thrives on the active engagement of informed citizens.
Well, we've reached the end of our deep dive into the Congressional Record from February 18th, 2025. I hope you found it enlightening.
It's been a privilege to share these insights with you.
Thank you for joining us, and until next time, stay curious, stay engaged, and keep diving deep.